Give me 37 minutes and you'll learn to live from the heart. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you made a decision directly from your heart, not your fear? On tonight's broadcast, we answer and explore one question. What does it actually look like to live from the heart? But about 11 days ago, I come across this video online. I want to play it for you because it got me asking this question. It got me asking about what life actually looks like when we decide to live from the heart rather than the intellect. Oh, sure, we can use the intellect in order to meet our goals, but if we live by the heart instead of the intellect, what does that actually look like? Without further ado, if you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You just need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent Psychology, and I test it in the real world, on real people, on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. Just to set up the clip, Alex Hormozi is doing like $250 million a year in his portfolio companies. He's 36 years old. He's a popular business entrepreneur, information specialist. And he sits down with Tony Robbins after having all of the success and basically says that it all kind of feels empty. I want you to check this out.
But it's never going to be the same as when you have something that's larger than you that you're called to. So like, I hate the word motivation because I've never been a motivator, but people use the word. So I'll say, well, there's two types of motivation if you don't think of it that way. There's push motivation, which is, let's say, duty, or I've got to do this, or I have to do, or obligation, right? Or just, I'm going to make this happen. And look, brother, you have a huge amount of willpower. It's pretty obvious by what you've accomplished. I have tremendous respect for you. And I do too. But willpower only goes so far. That's push. Pull motivation is where there's something out there that you want to serve more than yourself that'll get you up early, keep you up late. And it isn't hard. It isn't duty. It is like what I'm made for. When you tap into that, your energy level will explode, your contribution will explode. It doesn't mean overnight everything is going to work your way. Of course it doesn't work that way. But it will give you the constant endurance to move forward in a way in which you enjoy your life rather than someday when I get to this number, then I'm slowly going to feel good.
One of the issues that happens is that we're constantly pushing, trying to get to that golden goodie, only to get to the golden goodie and realize that it ain't that good. Not in the sense that there's anything wrong with the finances or anything wrong with portfolio companies or anything wrong with businesses in general. Only that if it's willpower, that's the push, that's the intellect, that's the capacity for just continuing regardless of circumstances, regardless of setbacks, regardless of how I feel, regardless if it's right or wrong, just continuing. That's willpower. And there's a power to that. That's great. But tonight's question is really about what does it actually look like to take a different route? What does it actually look like to live from the heart? And the heart is that pull factor. I just want to make sure I'm defining terms. The heart is that pull. You heard Tony say, when you're living from that pull situation, you get energized. When you're living from that pull situation, from that heart situation, you're serving something that's bigger than yourself. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like contribution. It feels like you're doing exactly what you are made for. Tony's already at the $1 billion mark, right? Tony is where Alex Hormozi, the influencer with the hat on, Tony's where that dude wants to be. But Tony's also saying, listen, the cash is great, the money is great, the lifestyle is great, but to be lived. But the only thing that's even making life worth it for the billionaire is to be lived, to be pulled, to be doing exactly what I am meant to do, to be doing exactly what you are meant to do. And he's coaching them. He's just giving them the game. He's just saying, listen, you done spent your time building up this empire, and that's great. It took a lot of willpower in order to do it. It took a lot of intelligence in order to do it. But you'll never be fulfilled unless you decide to take this other path. And so that conversation is what got me actually looking and saying, you know what would it actually look like to live from the heart? The reason that this hit so much, and me and Felicity, we were just, on YouTube or whatever, we were watching this the other night, this clip I just showed you. I was like, yo, that is like our story. Back in 2020, I retired. I had came out of tech sales, started investing. I started investing years ago, but in 2020 is when it became real, and I was like, oh wait, I don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to do that anymore. So what happened was is that I was just excited. A new type of life was opening up, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it. So I'm sitting around. I've got all the time in the world. And the thing I started noticing is that the world works differently when you're not at the 9 to 5. It looks differently. Like there's not as many people outside at 11 a.m. You can't really even call the homies up because everybody's scheduled. Everybody's on the clock. So I'm like, oh man, what do I do with all this free time? And quickly I started seeing that, oh, okay, there is not enough consumption in the world. There is not enough restaurants that you can go eat at, not enough places that you can go visit. I did that. Not enough parties that you can go kick it at. There's not enough. Because at some point, all of those activities and events end, and you're back in your living room staring at the walls. So I was like, okay, I got to start like getting something. I got to start. I had a business coach at the time, um, one of the co-founders of Afrotech, and he was like, we would just kind of be working. He was like, look, what are you about? And I was like, listen, I'm thinking about something about speaking. I'm thinking something about speaking. Like there's something on my that's coming to me talking about speaking. If I could just be speaking, I think that would kind of be kind of cool. I think that would be slick. So he came to the house one day and we're sitting on the patio and I was like, yo, I think if I could just start speaking and writing, then maybe that could be my path. That's what I wanted. But really what I was after was a sense of purpose. I wanted something that was going to pull me. What am I? No, now that no longer I am being led by the intellect alone. Like once you win that game, whatever it means for you at that particular point in time, once you win or you cross over, like what else? So ultimately, I'm pacing around and I start thinking, okay, what would it look like? What would it look like? Okay, maybe I could start like a YouTube channel or something. Maybe I could do something like this. Maybe I could. But I kind of want to speak and I want to be able to. I had a meditation laboratory for a decade. I would love to be able to take that knowledge and crystallize it and put it into something that I could speak about, that people could get, they could understand. And that's when I was like, okay, well, if I could speak about something and I could get people to understand it and I could crystallize this information, could I put it out online? But eventually, I think we rented out a church and we did our first video, hired the cameraman, did the whole thing, you know what I'm saying? I started finding out like, oh shoot, I kind of like this filmmaking thing. Like if I could speak, but what if I could turn it into like a cinematic, like a movie experience? Like, okay, cool, cool, cool. Then I ran into the issue of figuring out that wait, to speak, there's a one-way communication when you do a video, right? People can't really interact with you. So I'm like, dang, what could I do so that the interaction, the communication that the speeches aren't just speeches, but they could actually speak directly to somebody. They could actually speak in real time and I could see them actually being affected by what's being said. I could see the knowledge land. I could see the information land. What would that look like? What if I could do something like that? So I started making these plans. It started in Tahiti. We flew to Tahiti and we started doing like these exercises with people and we brought the camera for, what I'm saying, the camera folks out and did the whole thing and okay, cool, cool, cool. Went back, edited it. Cool. I like the way it looked. Let's do this again. Next time in Atlanta, and that's where we went. But eventually, doing all of those videos, there came a point in time when I was like, I don't know how the Atlanta experience is going to go, because it's one thing to just be having these conversations or just be doing, sort of like uh, uh, energy exercises with the public. But it's another thing to take these ideas and turn them into street therapy. That was my whole deal. I was like, could I turn these ideas that we got from Tahiti, could I turn them into street therapy? Could I transform somebody in 7 minutes on the streets? And so as I'm leaving my house to fly to Atlanta, I remember thinking like, man, what if none of this works? But I could still feel this subtle pull that was saying, just go ahead and go. You dig what I'm saying? I want to show you what that looked like. I want to show you what that looked like because that was the first that was the first season of Countdown to Breakthrough. We start with our episode of literally running on the streets, and I'm about to rap to people, but I've hidden a therapy inside the rap song. See, this is what the heart, this is what that pull factor, we could also just call it love. This is what love is telling me to do. It's telling me to create something that's never been done before. Be willing to put yourself at risk. Be willing to look stupid repeatedly and often. Be willing to go, even when the intellect is saying that this doesn't make any sense, because you know what the alternative is. It's not even about an episode. It's not about a series. It's not about a product. It's not about a piece of art. It's not about YouTube. It's not about none of that. It's the simple fact that if you don't follow the heart, you could end up in front of Tony with $250 million you making every year from your portfolio companies, and still like, it don't mean much. I think at some point it starts to settle in on people that you do not have long on the planet. At some point, particularly at the mid 30s, you start to say, well, dang, hold on, I only got like if I'm good, maybe 5, 6 decades left. At some point, you start realizing that all of the cash can't buy you another 80 years. At some point, you start realizing that money itself is a game invented by other people. But I'm here to play a game invented by God. At some point, you're going to realize that, wait, money itself is a game invented by other people. They putting people on the money. They put people on the money, champ. So they're putting people on the money. It's a game invented by other people. And you know that the wealthiest man in the world, whoever that is at the time that you're watching this, cannot buy themselves 80 years. So you're saying that money can buy you everything but real time. It can buy you other people's labor, but it can't purchase you eternity. So then what are we really doing here? At a point, the bulk of my day has to be in service of something that's pulling me. It can't just be all of this push. Because the one thing I dislike the most is playing silly games and winning silly prizes. That's what I don't like the most. I don't like playing silly games and winning silly prizes. All because somebody said, hey, this is what you're supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to be living. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So no, 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 no. We got to live from this other place. We have another choice that we can make. We have to explore these questions because, frankly, I don't think there's a more important question when it comes to our career, when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to the life that we're building. When it comes to the life that you are building, the one question that cannot go unanswered is, what does it actually look like to live from the heart for me? I want you to know how I went into it, that it was a leap of faith. As you might expect, I'm not a rapper, but I thought if there's a way to get somebody's attention in such a way that I could hide the healing within the performance, could it be something that not only serves people, but frankly, how obedient could I be to this pull factor? How obedient could I be to the God within? How obedient can I follow the dictates of the heart? How much could I follow love? That's the exercise for me. How closely can I follow love? From the time I leave the door in Austin to the time I arrive in Atlanta and start running up on people on the streets. Oh, and there's only 7 minutes to actually give somebody an actual breakthrough. Because unlike here on the streets, there's a time limit and people are really not trying to talk to you like that. Check this out.
Everyone carries something heavy inside. I rap until you let it go.
Ma'am, can I show you how beautiful your mind is? I'm Dr. Shawn, I'm a therapist. I wrote a song for you. Can I share it with you?
A song?
I don't serve you in 7 minutes. I pay you cash just for taking your time today. All right.
Sorry.
There's a lot of things that I've gone through within the past year. Traumas, breaking me down.
7 minutes on the clock right now. Close your eyes, go inside. All of you is justified. It should come as no surprise that you're the love God cares about.
Nope.
Wait,
Yes.
who's gonna free me?
What if you're free when you decide?
We're in the middle of the city.
I was just like thinking about a whole bunch of negative stuff. God sent you to just give me a word.
We're talking about what does it actually look like to live from the heart. We got to go to the breakthrough board. At this point, we've got to go to the breakthrough board. Now we're talking about the principle, the pattern, and the path forward. So we come over to the breakthrough board. And now we need to start talking about what's the principle of the evening. Because the question, of course, for the night was what does it actually look like? What does it actually look like to live from the heart? That is the question for the evening. That's the question. And now, from that question, we're looking to pull out a principle. I like to teach from principles because if I can understand the principle behind a thing, I can map my own steps. If I understand the principle of a thing, then I can find my own way. And as of late, I've been doing the principle, pattern, and path, but I do it directly on. I don't have it prepared before I come on. Which means that based off of what we've seen tonight, and based off of our primary question, which is what does it actually look like to live from the heart, there must be a principle. So here's the principle. When it comes to the question, what does it actually look like to live from the heart? As I've seen and watched tonight, I'm coming away with a single principle. And that principle is this. That living from the heart is literally the same thing as being yourself. That living from the heart is literally the same thing as being yourself. And before we go too much further, that would also mean that if you are choosing to spend life chasing after paying back a bank, chasing after bills, chasing activities that your parents got you into, chasing activities that the family said was important for you to do, chasing any activity that is led by the intellect, anything that is not the heart, then you are not being yourself. You're violating the principle. And so long as you violate the principles of reality, you will not be able to garner the blessings of reality because you're divorcing yourself from the truth of reality. This is exactly what Alex and myself and so many people need to hear, which is that living from the heart is not just some woo-woo nonsense. The other way of saying it is being yourself, living as yourself, which also means that if you are not taking the time to live by this love frequency, not just sometimes, not just when it's time to do arts and crafts, then you can never be yourself. Which makes you ask, what's the point of doing life if you've got to pretend to be somebody else? This was the big piece for me. And this is the big piece for me. Constantly living from the heart means being myself. And all of myself, I get to bring together the scholar, the writer, the researcher, the sales guy. I get to bring all of it to the filmmaker, the therapist, the inventor. I get to bring it all together. But I'm not bringing it together from an intellectual ego standpoint. I'm bringing it together so that as pure expression and allowing that expression to serve. That is the most compelling principle of this evening. That living from the heart, which is the other way of saying living from the truth, is being yourself. Which also means that if you overlook the heart, you're overlooking the ground of existence and the very reason that you were born, which necessarily means you're overlooking yourself. So now that we know the principle, what's the pattern here? We know the principle, but what's the pattern here? Like the pattern, of course, is why do we even get into this kind of mess in the first place? Like, what's the pattern? Once I can understand the pattern, then I can recognize the pattern. Once I can recognize the pattern, I can interrupt the pattern. Once I can interrupt the pattern, I no longer have to suffer the pattern. So what's the pattern? We know the principle, which is that following the heart also means being yourself. The pattern, however, is this: that when we allow the intellect to lead, the intellect will direct us to the goal. But the problem is, and the pattern happens when we allow the goal to overtake the heart. The intellect will forge us a goal. It'll say, hey, look, based off of past conditions, based off of times when the money was low, based off of times when you felt the most unsafe, we need to accomplish this goal. Go get the cash. Go secure the relationship. Go get the status. Go get the power. Go get other people to look at you in a certain way. Yeah, we need to establish this goal. So the intellect gets to work architecting all of the various steps that it's going to take in order to reach this goal. And this very process of having this intellect architect these steps, it absorbs so much attention that the pursuit of the goal overtakes the heart. Now you're not even listening to what the heart is saying. Wouldn't even know. You're too busy being occupied. I remember being too busy being occupied by all the steps my intellect told me I needed to hit in order to hit my goal. Which is why after you hit the goal, after the pursuit of the goal fails, you're left with this emptiness. Because I was left with this emptiness because I didn't feel I wasn't living life from the heart. I was living life based off of not wanting to suffer, based off of goals I was attempting to pursue, based off the steps. So focused, my attention so focused and absorbed on the steps to reach my goal. The pursuit of my goal overtook my vision and perception of the heart. So I could no longer hear it speak to me, could no longer live from it. Only in creating space was there an opportunity. Only in creating space was there an opportunity. Okay, so we know the principle of the evening, which is that to live from the heart is to be yourself. But now we're recognizing the pattern, which is that the pursuit of our goals, defined and architected, where the steps are defined and architected by the intellect, the pursuit of those goals absorbs so much attention that we no longer have any left to give over to the heart, which means we can't hear what the heart is telling us to do, which means we can't go do it. And for those who are actually successful enough to achieve the goal, they get to experience even more pain because those people get to experience what life looks like when there is no goal and when there is no heart. When there is no goal to distract them and when there is no heart. And that's exactly what we saw with the entrepreneur at the top of the call, at the top of the hour. And it's exactly what happened to me. So now we have the principle, the pattern. We need the path forward. We need the path forward. We saw the principle that to answer the question for the evening, what does it actually look like? What does it actually look like to live from the heart? To answer that question, well, it looks like being yourself. That's the principle of the evening. The pattern, the place where we run in trouble is that the intellect absorbs so much attention that we can no longer pay attention to the heart. When we can no longer pay attention to the heart, we forget the heart. When we forget the heart, we suffer. But so what's the path forward? How do we get out of making that same mistake? The path forward is this. We must create space for listening. We must create space for what you might call heart-based listening. It's what I wish somebody would have told me. That you cannot hope to hear the voice of God if you ain't listening. You cannot hope to be yourself if you're not listening to yourself. You cannot hope to hear what the heart's talking about if you're not creating space, opportunity to become familiar with the voice of the heart, to listen to it. These are metaphorical language, it's metaphorical terms, but I just mean to tune in to that feeling that says, this, yes, is energetically aligned. This feels wonderful. This feels great. Something beyond pleasure. It's not just pleasurable. As we saw tonight, following the heart still comes with challenges. You can still find yourself out there, and you can still find yourself unsure, but to continuously trust that feeling. It becomes so beautiful to watch how it perfectly arranges and orders the steps that you could not have created with your intellect alone. The chance encounters that end up being more, that end up being mirrors and reflections to yourself, that bring you deeper. Powerful. There can be no hope for following the heart if we're not taking the time to listen to the heart. If there was any benefit to retirement, it was just getting the space, just the ability to recognize and create the space for heart-based listening. It was just that ability, just that opportunity. And so it is the path that I offer for you tonight. It is the path that I offer for you tonight. You say, okay, well, how can we create that space? Well, much like what's happening in this video, in the episode of Countdown to Breakthrough we just watched, what I really like are things called higher reprogramming questions. We talk about higher reprogramming questions a lot in the book, Spiritual Responsibility, right? HRQs or HERCs. These are questions that reprogram. They're asked in such a way that they reprogram the mind for peace, for more powerful beliefs, and even for creating that peaceful state so that the heart can speak to you. So what I call those higher reprogramming questions. And I believe we have one for you tonight. I call them higher reprogramming questions, and I believe we have one of them for you tonight. A certain question that you're going to be able to ask yourself. A certain way of getting into the space where you can create space for heart-based listening. That question is going to be answered right inside of the video. I do believe that there is a recorded, that in this video where we're talking about what it look like to live from the heart, in showing you what it looks like for me to live from the heart on the streets and then create and turn it into a film project, a series, a TV series. Inside of that very episode at the end is a question that's going to allow you to create space, heart-based space, to clear out these negative thoughts, these negative rhythms. Let's get to that now.
What say you? There is a flowing rhythm to the universe if you're quiet enough to hear. When all seems lost and your world is falling apart, folding in on itself, and the stress is so high and the morale so low, I just want you to know that there's a sacred rhythm playing and a higher frequency beckons you because the voice of God still speaks, vibrating the original sound of reality. You cannot have vibration without highs and lows, without ebbs and flows. And so when it's time for everything to be taken away from you, it's then that I want you to know that more is about to be given. I leave you with the rhythm you've been hearing all along. I leave you with this special kit to use anytime the song of your heart gets hushed by life. I call this kit the higher reprogramming question. You can render any thought or emotion harmless by stripping it of belief through the higher reprogramming question. Do this. Think back to a situation where you felt stressed. What was going on? Who was causing the problem? Where was it happening? And why did the situation disturb you? Paint this picture, recall it firmly back inside of your mind. Notice how real and true the story feels to you. Notice the anger, the resentment, the frustration, the anxiety, the fear that arises as you remember what happened. Now ask yourself this higher reprogramming question. How would it feel if the story that's producing this emotion in me wasn't true at all? What if I'm free when I decide? Allow yourself to feel the answer to those questions. What happens to the negative emotion once you retract the belief the negative emotion was depending on? Use your higher reprogramming questions first with small situations. Then as you mature, move on to larger and larger situations until you understand that those in charge of their own questions are in charge of their own minds. In big or small circumstances, you are stripping the situation of your belief and raising your vibrational frequency at once. This power of transformation is always within. Moving beyond the drum of time, vibrating now, counting down to your breakthrough.